We have to examine the social value and the purpose of the work we engage in as teachers. When we establish effective classroom rules and routines, students are, one, protected or cared for and safe, and two, they're learning life skills. In Effective Classroom Management this week, we read about establishing rules and routines as well as developing relationships and how the two correlate. Having students create the classroom rules gives them an added buy-in. They've created these rules and therefore will follow them as they've all agreed upon them. This leads into developing that student-teacher relationship. Teachers need to be human. They need to show their sense of humor. They need to be welcoming and make themselves available to talk. They need to share their lives with their students, and in turn, the students will share with them. That I can see a difficulty with, as many teachers are told not to tell students about their lives, about their families, about their hopes and dreams, things that annoy them and frustrate them. But I think that there's a fine line between what you can share with a student and what you can't. Sharing with your students makes you a real person to them and not just a teacher. Students tend to see teachers as weird aliens that don't belong on this planet. They tend to forget that we have lives and struggles, and the reality is that we all have a story. It's just a little bit different from each person to person. I really enjoyed reading the What Should I Do This Week as we talk about how we care for other people's children. And again, this is part of that concern about sharing with yourself, because sharing creates a relationship. And how do you take yourself out of that once you've created a relationship with a child to make the right decision? We read the chapter about how the student was late to school and had no jacket, and after talking to the student, the teacher really realized that this may be an issue of that CPS needed to get involved in, but that personal dilemma arose between doing what we know in our career would have been the right thing to call CPS and doing what's right for the student. Having her mother deported may not have been the best opportunity for her to learn or stay in the country. There are other consequences for our actions in the classroom, and that's something that we really need to take into consideration as teachers, that for a moment we may be parenting other people's children, and there's a fine line between that as well. As a potential history teacher, I struggle with the what should I teach and how, as a lot of the subjects we tend to teach are from the historically white perspective, and we talk about power and social justice and putting ourselves in the shoes of other people, but I have not experienced those things. So how am I going to be able to step into a classroom and explain to students of a different racial or ethnic background this history, this important concept of social justice? That's something that I really need to think about as a teacher in my own philosophy. And teaching the taboo, in that book we experienced two different situations, and the one that really spoke to me was the science and math section of that book, because those are subjects that I personally have had a very hard time with, and the way that the book describes them as exploration and learning in a way that I don't think students really get nowadays. I know I never got that type of learning and exploration, and let me try something new, and if it doesn't work, that's all right, let's try something different. School has always been, there's only one correct way, and that's not how life is. Life isn't always black and white. There's an immense amount of gray, and when students realize this after school is over, it's very hard to accept, it's very hard to understand, to comprehend that everything you were told before about things being fair or things not being fair isn't the case. There's a middle. There's not just a right and a wrong. There's a middle. There's a maybe. There's a what if. And this is something that, as an educator, that I really would like to focus on in history. I think that reading these books can really help me and other teachers, potential teachers like myself, really understand fully what we're about to undertake, what we're about to step into, the role that we're about to hold. Because it's not just reading facts and dates from a page, it's really trying to help children understand the social value and purpose of why we're learning the things we're learning. And it's my job as a teacher to really hit that nail on the head when I choose what topics to teach, and to give the students an opportunity to be the expert, to be the person in the room that we go to because they are Middle Eastern and they know the most about their particular religion or race or class or employment. And that will really help students feel empowered in their own learning and their lives. And I think that's something that they can take with them the rest of their lives.